Now, we know in the past you've gone to Brazil training with Nova União. Have you done any training in Brazil for this camp, or is the majority of your training taking place in Nova Scotia?
I'm doing all my training here in Cole Harbour, Nova Scotia at Fit Plus MMA. We brought in some guys, too, to help, the training. And actually we had a guy in Guillaume de Lorenzi was staying with me. He just went home today. He's preparing for his Bellator fight. So, it's good, great training with him. And, good to have a guy right alongside you that has the same goal. He's fighting a week after me. So, we were focused, training hard, and, it was definitely good.
Yeah, Guillaume's a guy that we've definitely seen a lot of here in Montreal. How did that come about?
Oh, just, we were just in contact with his manager, Joey Benoit, and they set it up. And, it's great. It's great. He's a great guy, and he's got great skills, and, he's a hard worker. And, it was easy to have him here and had some really good training.
Now, you mentioned before that your last fight at UFC 152 was the last one on your contract. How many fights have you signed now with the UFC, and what are the details? Are we expecting 4 or 5 fights, or is it a 3-fight contract?
It's a 4-fight deal. It was the third fight on my 4-fight deal, and they usually renegotiate at that point with all my other contracts. As soon as you have a fight, you get so. I got 4 more fights in the UFC, and I'm looking to have a lot more than that.
Now, riding the 3-fight win streak at lightweight, it's definitely an extremely stacked division. How many more bouts do you feel, you're going to take on Matt Wiman, then you feel like with a victory, you'll be taking on a top 10 guy. How many more victories do you feel you'll need in order to get a title shot?
I just think that, again, I don't like to look past an opponent. I never, I hate to give you guys the same response, but I'm focused on Matt Wiman. But I also realize that the winner of this is going to be in a great spot, and hey man, bring it on. There's so many tough guys out there, especially in the top 10, and I'd love to fight somebody ranked higher than me, and just hopefully just get the exposure. You know what I mean? Like get a little bit of the fans' interest, maybe get a little bit of a following. It's starting to come about, especially where they're showing the undercards on Facebook and Sportsnet here in Canada. That's a great thing. That's a great platform for us to kind of get our name out there. But again, until you're on the main card, until you're thrown into that spotlight, it's still pretty tough. So that's my goal.
I got to answer that question for you, TJ. I would say 2 or 3 as far as fights before you get to a title shot. I mean, beating Matt Wiman, I would say puts you in a spot where you get a fight against a top 10 guy, a really high-level guy. You beat him, and I think you're probably right there for a title shot or maybe another fight away. So I think you're very, very close. You rack up an impressive win streak in the UFC lightweight division, and people start to recognize you. But then again, you never know, right? I mean, we've seen Gilbert Melendez now come in from Strikeforce and get a shot at Benson Henderson. Do you have thoughts on the Strikeforce champ just kind of bypassing everyone and getting the shot?
You know what? No, not at all. Gilbert's been doing his thing for a really long time, and
yeah.
He fought in Strikeforce, and he's one of those guys who's never been in the UFC, and hey, he comes over, he's the champ of Strikeforce, and he's fought some tough guys, and he's always done well. And I think it's going to be good to see that fight. There's other circumstances where like Johnny Hendricks is not getting his title shot. Nick Diaz is a guy that lost his last fight and then tested positive for marijuana and was off a year. To me, that's worse. You know what I mean? I think that Johnny's just beat consecutively, the 5 best guys in the world. He's beat them all, and now he's got to fight Jake Ellenberger in order to, and then who knows what happens? Maybe somebody gets injured in their fight, and he has to wait on the shelf even longer. So, I think that's kind of unfortunate. But as far as Gilbert, I think he's deserving, and right now there's, after Frankie just moved down, Benson just defended against Nate. It's kind of there's going to be the next 6 months is going to be whole new shaping of the lightweight division, and hopefully my name's right in there.
Yeah, we definitely hope so. A lot of fighters seem to talk their way into fights. Nick Diaz kind of did. It sort of backfired on Johnny Hendricks for opening his mouth. Alistair Overeem almost got a title shot over Cain Velasquez for opening his mouth. Chael Sonnen is getting a title shot. I think perhaps you should be a little vocal when you win your fight. After Matt Wiman, you should call out the winner of Anthony Pettis, Donald Cerrone, which is also taking place on that UFC on Fox 6 card.
Hey, man. Well, like I said, I like to, let my fighting do the talking. But, after that fight, I got to take a look and see what's going to happen. Look at the whole division. And hey, I'll fight either one of those guys. Like I said, there's any option in the UFC. But, no, I'm ready to fight the best in the world right now. So we'll see what happens.
Now, TJ, your last fight was in Toronto. You fought here in Montreal. You fought for the UFC in now Montreal and Toronto. Now, you're from Nova Scotia, so you're totally unbiased. Which crowd do you prefer?
You know what, man? I just love the Canadian fans. Montreal is awesome. I've been there so many times. I got a lot of love in Toronto. I'll say Montreal. I fought there so many times, and you know what? Before I was even in the UFC, when I'd be fighting, fighters from Quebec or just other parts of Canada, I always got a lot of love in Montreal, and even getting guys come up to me after the fight, just fans, and be like, hey man, I really liked your fight, and it's a really good feeling, and I love the city, so I'll say Montreal. Hopefully I don't make anybody upset, but.
No, of course not. You're on Montreal radio. That's it. That was the right answer. That was correct.
Yeah. Well, maybe there's some people from Ontario listening, man. Maybe they'll be pissed off at me.
No, there are. I know there are, but, what are you going to do about those guys? Too bad.
Well, it's all good, man.
TJ Grant, it's great talking to you. I can't wait for your fight against Matt Wiman. You're one of these guys in the UFC that I look forward to seeing fight the most. I really followed your career for a long time, and I was one of those guys watching you in Montreal before you were in the UFC, and I love what you're doing in the Octagon. We appreciate you taking the time, and good luck on the 26th.
Thank you very much, guys. Appreciate it.